Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on how to start your career in cybersecurity. We've had quite the positive response to the invitation to this webinar, which we think is great since, as you see as we go through this, cybersecurity is a growing field and could provide a nice future for many of you. So let's get started. Your panelists for today are Jim Paparella. That's me. I am Vice President for WVJC Online. I am with Isaac Lambert. Hello, Isaac,
Hello.
who is a member of our advisory board, and I'll let Isaac talk a little bit about his background.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Isaac Lambert, and currently I work as a system developer at Agile 5 Technologies. And my background includes cybersecurity in the aerospace industry with NASA, the private sector with financial institutions, and obviously the Department of Justice as well.
Good, very good. So before we talk about cybersecurity, Isaac, let's talk a little bit about WVJC Online. WVJC Online is an online education delivery program, and we specialize in offering associate degrees that can be completed in less than 2 years. And if I had to say, what the distinguishing characteristic of WVJC Online is that when you go to school here, you really are part of a community, and you feel like, and you have that sense of being part of something. All of our programs basically follow the same pattern, where you would have classroom instruction where you are actually being taught career-related skills. You get a chance to practice those skills, and most of our programs with interactive lab work. Towards the end of the curriculum, again, in most of our programs, we place you on an externship where you get a chance to apply what you've learned in the classroom and in the lab in a world situation. And many of our programs, including cybersecurity, lead to preparing you for industry-wide certification, so that when you do go on job interviews, you could actually show employers that you do in fact have the skill sets that you went to school for. And then when it's all said and done, we will do our best to help you find employment for what you went to school for. So that's WVJC Online. We offer programs both in the healthcare area, such as medical coding, pharmacy tech, and also professional services, things like human resources, accounting, and of course, cybersecurity. So speaking of cybersecurity, Isaac, what is it?
Yes, so cybersecurity encompasses a lot, right? When we hear it in the news, sometimes we always think of these hackers somewhere, someone trying to get in, but it really encompasses a lot. Cybersecurity involves everything from understanding what we have to protect to protecting it, preventing it. Also, and then we have to defend against it. And then things actually do happen too. Even the companies that are some of the largest in the world, large financial institutions, large government entities, agencies, they do and are breached, and they have to recover. So cybersecurity isn't just defending; it's not just recovering. It's all these different areas.
Yes, and one of our goals today is to try to break down cybersecurity. I know, Isaac, when I first heard the term cybersecurity, and someone like you you've worked for the FBI. I mean, you work for NASA. That sounds like so much like, oh, I just can't do that. I mean, that's for like really smart people. But that's not really the case, is it?
Yeah, and in cybersecurity, we really look at it as people who are specialists, right, in their areas of cybersecurity. So anyone can do it, right, and anyone has a capability to learn. It is a really, really cool thing. It's really, really interesting, and it really gets you involved. And once you start learning, you can't stop, because it is really cool, right? You just want to read one more line of code, or you want to protect one more system, and it really is cool to learn all these different things.
Yeah, and what really helped me try to understand cybersecurity, when in my mind I compared it to like going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right. So like when I go to the doctor, he checks me out,
It does.
and if you worked in cybersecurity, that's what you would do.
Mhm.
if you went into somebody's company, you would basically check out their computer infrastructure, right?
Yeah. We would check out a lot of things, right? I mean, you have your computers, you have cell phones, and nowadays, right, we have thermostats, right? We have light bulbs in here, that we have printers. So we check the entire health organization, the heartbeat, right? The physical extremities of the organization, not just within the office you're seeing, but what if a gentleman or someone at the company has a laptop at home they're using or connection from there, or if he has a cell phone that he might be using on travel. So, it's all these factors that come into securing the organization.
Right. And then to continue with my medical
Hmm.
metaphor, if I may, so once I go to the doctor, he would run a series of tests.
Yes.
And then he would get back to me and say, we did these tests and some of these things aren't where they need to be. And again, as that compares to cybersecurity, that's what you would do, to the computer, I guess, network or system that you're analyzing and saying, hey, you are vulnerable in these areas, right,
But
Isaac?
that's a perfect metaphor. Yeah. So what we call that a vulnerability assessment. So we have people that we go into organization and they perform, like you said, a vulnerability assessment, and it assesses the vulnerability of that said enterprise, that organization. And and it's not always the entire organization, right? Maybe you're a hospital and you're really concerned about the machines or say your autism machines, right? You're really concerned about the security of the machines that provide life saving um, respiratory needs. So, obviously patient data is important, but today you want to come in, you just want to assess these things. So we have broad vulnerability assessments, but we also have them when to target just certain systems that we deem very, very, very mission critical, life saving. We just want to really put all of our attention on those in
Right.
times like these.
Yeah, exactly. That was well put. And then to the last part of the medical, example, if some of my tests, showed that I, wasn't where I need to be, the doctor would recommend a treatment. Okay, he would say, here are some things you need to do to get where you need to be. And then it's the same thing with cybersecurity. If somebody was working in cybersecurity and they went in and they say, hey, Mr. Businessman, hey, Mr. Department owner, here's what you need to do to plug the holes,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah, so
Isaac?
we call that a system or security control. So we have this control. So the system owner would own the responsibilities, right? It's their system, and the security expert, they would say, here are security controls, access controls that are recommended for to remedy or mitigate the chance of this vulnerability being exploited.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's basically what cybersecurity is. And so to talk about, I want to try to give our attendees, Isaac, some idea of what's going on out there. I mean, and what kind of future people can expect. So we are really looking at a point in time where you're seeing, really a confluence of, the Internet of Things, you know, artificial intelligence, 5G. I mean, this is all about to happen, in our, not only in our lifetime, within the next couple of years. What does that mean? I mean, how's this going to affect us, the
Yeah.
way that we live?
Yeah, cybersecurity is growing, and growing it's understanding, right? It's sprouted and it's growing, and it has taken off like a rocket. So what that means is that security is going to be a part of every single thing that we do going forward. From our homes, I mean, personally, I see it as a real big thing in our home. As our homes will become more connected, as our lives become more connected, privacy is going to be such a big thing. I see that as really taking off the next few years. I also see just security in vehicles, right? I mean, you go to the car dealer nowadays, and the vehicles are driving themselves, right? I mean, these car industries, they're employing so many cybersecurity experts, but when you get in your car, you don't think about, how many hundreds of people have probably touched that car in terms of security. So not just are we looking at technology professionals in hospitals in traditional settings, but things we don't even think about right now, like our cars and our homes.
Yeah, I don't think I'm exaggerating all that much when I say everything is going to be connected. I mean, you mentioned printers, you mentioned some other things. I'm talking hairbrushes.
Mhm.
I
Refrigerators.
I mean,
Yes.
well, refrigerators. I
Yeah.
mean, when you step on a scale to weigh yourself, that data is going to be when you look in the mirror,
Mhm.
you know, and 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 with 5G and with artificial intelligence, what the things that can be done with that data, is, and I guess what that means to people who might want to get into cybersecurity is everything is connected.
Yes.
And if everything is connected, everything can be
It
vulnerable
needs protected.
that
Yes.
that need to be protected,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all there's like I said, there's fronts, right? There's so many fronts in cybersecurity that I always like to say it can be really paired with your passion, right? If you have a passion for healthcare, but you don't think nursing is actually what you want to do, right? You can still work in cybersecurity and help secure the healthcare field, right? If you love cars, you love being a mechanic, but you're just not sure that's the path for you. How about working in a car manufacturer, working at Tesla, working at Toyota, Ford, Chevy, General Motors, and securing the next generation of vehicles, and not just self-driving vehicles, but cars are really smart already. They already need protected.
Right. And so I can see, questions are starting to be formed. So if anyone has questions, please send them through the the Q&A function, if you will. So, the need. So we talked about, just how technology is getting ahead of itself, really. And there is just with a changing world, what does that mean for the need for people who have some of the skills that we're talking about here?
Yeah, as you can definitely tell from the chart, right? That the need is, I mean, that's a trillion. That's not a B, that's a T, right? That is a trillion. So, I mean, organizations would much rather pay a great salary and have a lot of employees than to end up dishing out $6 trillion over the course of a year, right? Annually. So it means that the need is there and it is a really good, stable, growth field. It's not something that I think we're gonna see disappear, right? It is not gonna disappear. You're not gonna get a job in cybersecurity, and then 2 years later, the market's gone, right? There's no need more for security. It's gonna keep growing, and these numbers are gonna keep going up.
Yeah, and just some numbers, some more numbers, things that I was doing a little bit of research yesterday, and I ran across this figure that in the near future, 7.3 billion devices okay, are going to be connected.
Mhm.
I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of programs, software, data are going to be able to transmit, information with each other, and again, just creates a need for people who know how to, work with those kind of things.
It's really cool. I mean, to think about, and I encourage you if you're sitting at home or sitting in your car or wherever you're sitting at listening to this, just look around you and think of how many things are connected, right? When he says there's how many billions of things, think about everything that's connected and think about what was connected 5 years ago and think of how many of those things were not and think of what's going to be connected in 5 more years. There's 2 more years. So you can just see that it's exponentially growing in terms of connectivity and the world needing to be protected and secured by new professionals.
Exactly. So let's talk about some specific,
Oh, yes.
positions that, try to bring it down to, what someone could expect to do on a day-to-day basis, excuse me. So Isaac, you work in, cybersecurity. That's been your career. What are some of these things? And
Yeah, I did some one I think is really cool in here. We call them cyber operations specialists, and they work in a SOC. So a SOC stands for Cybersecurity Operations Center. So when you're watching TV, you're watching those movies, they're in a dark room and there's all these screens up on the wall, right? These are what we call our SOC, our security operations or cyber operations specialist. And what they're doing is they're watching the entire network. They're watching attackers try to get in and they're responding, right? And as soon as someone tries to get in, the operators they fight back, and that's not over exaggeration, right? They put up defenses, they block them, they'll move things around in the network. They're actively preventing someone from getting in, like when it happens, when it's in the middle and in the trenches. That's what a cyber operations specialist does.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I was listening, describe
Yeah.
that. I was thinking about, remember the old movie War Games?
I do, yes.
Is that not before your time? But kind of reminded me of that. I mean, you're looking, some adversary, you're looking at what they're doing on a screen, and you're actually coming up with countermeasures,
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yeah, there's been some other ones here too. I
Yeah,
think
go
are
ahead,
really
please.
cool. We can hit on
Yeah,
just
sure.
quickly. So, incident responder. That's unfortunately the best cybersecurity professionals in the world. Things still do happen, and incident responders, they're kind of like the cleanup, right? The cleaners. They come in and they clean up. They respond to incidents. So that's what their focus is on. You see with malware analysts. So, a big part is that so after attack is happening, or maybe before attack, you see someone online talking about this malware has been discovered. They've made a malware analyst will understand exactly how that virus, exactly how that worm, that bug is made and developed. So then they can communicate that to engineers about, hey, this is how you need to make something because this is how this bug is going to attack it. So that's really cool thing. And then the other one we have is a pen tester, a penetration tester. That is when we talked about earlier, that vulnerability assessment. They go to organizations. It's pretty cool. They get permission from that organization. That again, they get permission from that organization and they attack it. They attack organization they've received permission from to test it, to penetration test it, and act like a bad guy or a bad girl would, and see if they can really still get in. And if so, they're able to, then they report that to the engineers and they can learn to better protect the system.
Right. So that would be like a white hat attack,
Yes.
the good guys, as opposed to a black hat
Yes. Yep.
attack, which is
White's good and black's bad. Yep.
yeah, right, exactly. So, how about some of the things that you do? You're working in cybersecurity right now. What do you do?
Yeah. So right now, what I'm looking at is the security of cloud. Right. We hear so much about the cloud, right?
Right.
And everything's on cloud, right?
What is the cloud?
Yeah, the cloud. That a really simple explanation of the cloud is in when you store your data, your person on someone else's system, right? So think of as we have your photos on your phone, right? Your iPhone. When you take a picture and it goes to up in the cloud, iCloud, right? Your photo is no longer on your phone. It's an Apple server. So that's just what the cloud is. Your cloud is when you have data and you're putting that data in someone else's hands. When your photo goes someplace else, that's in the cloud, right? When you check, you store your, Office 365, when you're typing on Word and you store it in Office 365, Microsoft 365, that's the cloud because your document is not on your computer or your phone. It's up in someone else's Microsoft, Apple's server. So that's the cloud, just the storage of your things in someone else's space.
So it's basically another computer that someone else owns.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's a big thing. Yes, it's a computer that someone else owns that is storing your information, and you can pay for the cloud. The cloud is free for say, so people do pay for cloud services, but the idea is it's being stored on someone else's things that you may be paying for the leasing of.
Yeah, that was excellent. So then, getting back, then your role is what you do with the cloud?
So as we just talked about, the cloud, we have so much on the cloud, right? And we're putting tons of things on it, and it can be really, really kind of overwhelming for a large organization to tackle the security of their cloud, right? They want to get into the cloud because the cloud's cool, the cloud's really powerful, it's really cost effective, it's mobile, it's resilient. The cloud is awesome in so many ways. But with those things come a lot of challenges. How do we secure something that's everywhere? How do we secure something that we actually can't physically touch, right? Because we're sitting here in West Virginia, but AWS, they have servers up in Ohio, they have them over in California. How can we secure something we can't touch? So doing a lot of research about how to effectively and efficiently secure when we put things in the cloud, and we help organizations do that.
Good.
Yeah.
I would think that there is not only a need for that now, but considering the way we described, the way connectivity is going to grow, there will even be a greater need for those type of services at some point in the future.
Of course, right? The cloud is growing. Yeah, I mean, all the cloud, Microsoft Azure, Google G Cloud, Amazon Web Services, AWS. These every year they're reporting higher and higher use every year. Just a ton.
Okay. Before we go on, why don't we tackle some of these questions? So here we have one. What are some of the industries you could work for in cybersecurity?
Yeah. Maybe we could try thinking of one you can't work for.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right?
Yeah, like there's so many, right? Like when I think of what could we work for, there's just, one of the ones that always comes to my head, I think is interesting. And we've talked about the medical one a lot. We've talked about touching the cars, but I'll just touch on the first one I did in my career, which is space and aerospace. I thought that was
NASA, because you worked for
NASA. Yeah,
NASA for a while, yes.
yes, NASA, and it was so cool. And it's today, if anyone's seen the news, right? The Mars mission in NASA. When you think about that, now we think of it's in the awe, right? Science and all these cool things. But what if someone wanted to disrupt this mission? It's a really expensive mission, lots of money, not just a couple years of work, many years of work, hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of different people have put their life's work into this mission, and we want to make sure it's secure. So it's something that's really interesting to think about is, wow, there's a bunch of scientists doing the Mars mission. There's a whole team of security experts working around the clock to make sure that mission is secure and kept safe. It's a really cool field, I think, of people, in just aerospace in general, right? Your planes, things like that. It's a really something we don't think about as much, but it's really prevalent.
Right. Okay. And then another question is there a possibility for remote work?
Yes, I will personally attest to right now. I'm remote working 100% of the time. Before COVID, I was not. So um, due to the changes that COVID has changed and how our workplaces are set up, there is a high possibility for remote work, even more so now. Before the coronavirus, I personally knew people who already work from home. I did not, but since then, I know many of my coworkers, more than not, actually do work from home currently, and I don't see that changing a lot going forward. It's to be honest, it's a job that you can do safely a lot of times. So if you're worried about health, you don't want to put yourself in situations like that. It's allowing a lot of people to start and do careers that they can do safely from their home right now, especially.
Yeah, and we should note that there's no guarantee
Oh,
that
of
you
course.
could, might secure a position where you could work from home. But the question asked if it was possible, and I guess it is
It's yeah,
possible. And
it's not only is it possible, it's actually highly common. It's
yeah,
becoming common now.
right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to what employers,
Mhm.
okay, what are they looking for in cybersecurity candidates? And I also got this piece of information off um, during my research from an organization called Secure 360.
Mhm.
And the article was this: what are employers looking for in cybersecurity candidates? And it was creative problem solvers, which
Mhm.
makes some sense. Um, Effective communications, which a lot of this is being able to communicate because you have to be able to explain
Mhm.
exactly what your findings are and perhaps what the revenues are. Certifications, obviously, which we're going to get into, lifelong learning, and relevant experience. So there are some things that uh, I found in the literature. Isaac, what's your experience tell you? What you're out there. What would employers like to see?
The biggest thing out of everything you mentioned right there, that lifelong learner, really, it's home. That's something I really feel is necessary. Um, Education and learning constantly will be part of the career, right? Cyrus, I mean, I graduated a handful of years ago, and since then, I have learned so many different things that has changed and happened. It's a really changing field. So that skill you talked about, that lifelong learning, is something to take to heart and to really get behind because security is changing so much, always.
Um, let's look at another question.
Okay.
Okay, do I need to have technical computer knowledge already before I get into this program?
Before you get into this program, no. So this program is really awesome in the way that it helps you develop the skills you need from the base up to learn cybersecurity. So when you join the program, you'll learn computer basics, right? You'll learn about the computer, how it all works, and how networks works, because you can't protect something if you don't understand what you're protecting, right? So you will be able to start it with limited to no knowledge because we do build a firm base, a correct, great understanding, so you can learn how to protect something.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad somebody asked that question because that's one of the points that we want to get across is that it's cybersecurity.
Mhm.
What is that? And it is things like communication skills. It is things like critical thinking skills, and you can't learn that. It's not all systems administration. Um, so, so the next slide is, okay, so what are some of the specific tools of the trade? What are some of the skills
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
people actually learn?
absolutely. So we'll talk about one skill that I think is really interesting, and it's kind of like a network analysis tool that we would use. So how that works, it would be basically you open the tool up, and it allows you to scan um, the network and see what's happening, right? So you learn how to basically a skill that is really valuable is being able to see things that don't look normal, right? Things that look out of place, right? If you like patterns and you like puzzles and things like that, and everything's fitting together really well, and all of a sudden something comes along and this doesn't look right. This doesn't fit right. It just something makes you like kind of scratch your head like, I wonder what that could be. But then you have the curiosity to say, I want to look into it more. Not well. I guess it was just the computer, right? It's just something, it just happened once. 'Cause that's all it takes. So I think a really good hands-on skill is to be able to have curiosity, just be a natural person who is curious and wants to explore and investigate.
Okay. And then some, I think the common tools people may be familiar with are like firewalls.
Mhm.
So firewalls,
Yes.
basically monitor all of the traffic in and out of a network.
Mhm.
And what hackers try to do is fool the firewalls, make right. So,
Yeah. So for example, a website uses port 80. So that is a non-secured website connection. What that means is when you're browsing the internet on your computer, and it's going to the internet port 80 unsecured. There's a secured port, but I'll talk about the unsecured port. The unsecured port is port 80. And a firewall will be set up to allow port 80 to communicate. That's, if we wanted to do this presentation and we had port 80 turned off, probably wouldn't work, right? Because it needs to have that. So firewall will be open to port 80. But what the hacker would do then, he's going to see what other ports are open. Maybe there's this odd port 951, just off the top of my head. That could be something, could not be something. But if we don't accidentally block it, maybe the attacker can get in that way. So when you're looking at your firewall, the attacker is going to be wondering, what do they forget? What do they leave it open? And sometimes it's open, you need to open for a few seconds to test something, but you forgot to close it back. So they're going to be looking for those holes in the firewalls, forgot to be plugged. And the tools that the cybersecurity professional will use will allow them to plug those holes to the firewall.
so we're back to war games
Yep,
again, right?
yep, absolutely.
And I think another common tool that I would guess that most of our listeners are familiar with is antivirus.
Hmm.
We probably take that for granted, but essentially they will identify, a unwanted intruder,
Hmm.
quarantine it, alert, and cybersecurity professionals go to work to what do they do?
Yeah. So there's many types of things that they're looking for, right? We have everything from software that is going to be basically stealing your typing, right? There's going to be viruses and bugs and worms that try to steal your keystrokes. So your virus software is going to say, hey, there's a program on here watching what you type, and it doesn't seem like it should be here. It's going to tell you, and it's going to try to remove it. That's just one type of thing. So the security professionals, what they're doing is we talked about this malware analyst earlier. Those malware analysts are combing over all these different types of malware, and they're helping the antivirus know what to look for. So on everyone's computer every night or so often when it scans for your computer to make sure it's safe, the malware analysts have entered things into that antivirus so it knows what to look for.
It's fascinating.
Mhm.
It really is, uh, and that leads into our next discussion of certifications. So certifications, I think, in general, in the employer market, are becoming more important as I think people who are looking to onboard people want to know they have the skills that are looking for. So as you can see in this program, the students will have the opportunity to train for and uh, take the exam for these three certifications. Could you talk about these
Yeah,
certifications a little bit, Isaac?
absolutely. So the first one we have on our left there is Network Plus certification. Let's start by saying these are offered by CompTIA, which is a highly industry respected, not affiliated with, they stand by themselves or third party, and they issue these. So they're really, really great certifications that are respected like worldwide. Really awesome company. So Network Plus certification is the first one that we talked about knowing what we have before we're able to secure it. And that's what kind of Network Plus certification does. It allows the practitioner to be able to understand, okay, here's what I have, and it proves and you can understand what you have and how to set up a network and things like that. So after you can do that, after you know about a network, after you can set a network up, the next one is our Security Plus certification. What that shows is, hey, I actually know how to secure a network. I know how to set up and look at firewalls. I know how to look at intrusion detection, risk mitigation. And a big thing there at the end, you see Department of Defense 8570 compliant. That's a really big deal because what that means is the Department of Defense has this thing out that says if you want to work with us, and we have a lot of jobs, by the way, you have to have you actually have to have a certification that meets this. So you could actually have a graduate level degree, but if you don't have that certification and compliant, they're not going to allow you to put your hand on the keyboard for them. So that certification is really, really important. And lastly, the cybersecurity analyst one, plus that's just the next step up. So that security plus, I know about security, I know how it works. And the analyst plus is just the next level to even show, hey, I know about it, and I'm actually I know a lot about it. Like I'm advanced. I can maybe even help other people learn about cybersecurity now.
Okay, very good. And before we were, talking about, some of the characteristics that are key to being successful in cybersecurity, and I mentioned, lifelong learning,
Mhm.
and you actually pointed that out that was a very important trait
Yes.
to have. And so, although WVJC Online students will have the opportunity to develop these three certifications, looking beyond
Mhm.
WVJC Online. The way I understand it, Isaac, that there's just a number of types of cybersecurity related certifications that students can try to get to embark on some sort of career pathway is it's incredible, is it not?
Oh yeah, there is a countless number of cybersecurity certifications that range from getting out your career like Security Plus, all the way to ones like CISSP to CEH Certified Ethical Hacker. There is so many of them, and they have different focuses. Like the Certified Ethical Hacker is an advanced one. That's something you would get after having years in the field, and as the name says, it certifies you as being ethical. A white hat hacker. It certifies you as being a hacker. And it's a really, really technical one. It's not a lot of theory. It's very, very practical, very, very ones and zeros. So there's all kinds of cool ones you can get as you progress down your field, and those certifications are going to really solidify you to employers. They will really, really make you stand out in a positive way.
Okay, we have another question, Isaac. Are these certifications national, or are some of these certifications more at a state level?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. These are national certifications because normally their employer sets the rules on if they require them or not. So if you get Security Plus certification, that is good for any job that accepts a Security Plus certification. So it's national and more than likely entire world at actually times, depending on if employers in other countries require these. So not state at all. It's very, very widely accepted, especially when you get one that like CompTIA exams that are like really, really respected.
And another certification related question is, how long do these exams take to complete? Is it a whole day of testing?
Yeah. So for instance, we're just talking about Security Plus. Again, it's because it's one of the most popular ones. It's one of the most valuable ones to start out with. That exam takes a total of 90 minutes. So it's not an entire day. It is not you gotta take a whole day off or get all stressed about it and miss some things. It takes 90 minutes, just as long as a movie, if not shorter. And that's it. You can watch a movie or you could be certified in cybersecurity, right? So it is not very long at all.
You can watch war games.
Yes, you can watch more games as you take.
So, and another certification questions, when you get recertified, do you have to take the exam over again, or is it a different
Yeah.
exam?
So this will differ by exams type and also by when you took the exam and many different factors. But just to kind of overview, one of the more popular ways of it works is that every year or so, you just have to take a class that basically you have to watch a video, answer a few questions. It's not really an exam, it's just to keep you updated on the material so you're most aware of the new changes. Another requirement that some tests implement is that you have to actually take the exam again every 3 years, not all of them, but some of them. So sometimes you have to retake it, sometimes you have to watch a class, and honestly, sometimes you just have to pay $50. I've had certifications to where they make me take all these tests again. I've had a certification that just asks you to pay $50 more so they can send you a new certificate. Like it really, really varies, and there is not a standard of how to. They all vary widely, but they want people to be certified, so they do make it possible and easy, but they just have different avenues.
Gotcha. So next, we have a timeline for those interested in pursuing this type of career. As we mentioned before, Isaac, the program is 18 months, so you can see from a start to finish. And this is basically what we outlined before: is that you would start in your program during your length of time as a WVJC online student. You get classroom instruction, you get lab training. Eventually, you'll get your externship. You'll prepare, for these certifications, and we will do our best to actually get you started, in a
Yeah.
cybersecurity related career. So, who is this for? Um, and we really want to get the message out there that this is for everybody. Veterans is be a wonderful thing to get into. Women. I see. So I think sometimes information technology, cybersecurity comes off as a male-dominated field, but the person that runs the head technology person here at WVJC Online is a woman.
Yeah, I will attest that. When I was in DC working financial industry, and one of the there was a woman who was leading hundreds and hundreds of individuals in the organization, and she was awesome, and it was really really cool to see her in that position because it showed all the other women of the organization they too could not only be a cybersecurity professional be a trailblazer in their field and be someone that people looked up to from around the country. So it is a really awesome field for everyone, and I definitely don't want to discourage anyone because you maybe not see people like you who are in cybersecurity because there are people like you in cybersecurity all across the states.
Yeah, that was very well put. And we also want to highlight, as we have tried to do during, the course of this webinar, that it's for beginners. A lot of cybersecurity educational opportunities are for people who already have a technology background.
Yes.
There's these boot camps out there and these coding boot camps, and there's really not a preponderance of opportunities for someone who wants to take advantage of what this field has to offer, but to be able to start at the beginning. And that's what we're
And do
offering.
something in such an efficient amount of time as 2 years, right? To be able to do something that you don't have to commit, 6 years or 4 years just to learn about. It's something you can do in a really efficient, effective part of time that is really going to pay off.
Right. And some questions related to going through the program. How often do you start classes? I can tell you that that varies. I know that the next cybersecurity class starts in April, and I believe it's on the schedule to start again in June. I do believe it's approximately every 12 weeks we start that class. Is there financial aid available for this program? Yes, if you're qualified. So just like any other of our programs, you would fill out as what financial aid application. A lot of people call it the FAFSA. And again, if you are eligible, you could apply those eligible awards to the cybersecurity program. So what we have to offer here at WVJC Online, we've talked about some of these things. 24/7 tech support. Isaac is a very important feature when you're trying to go through an online program in cybersecurity.
On your schedule, right? Where you don't have, yeah, I mean, it really makes a big difference.
Yeah. So Here we have some quotes from some of our students. So how would one get started? So if you're interested, you would want to go to WVJC Online. You would request information, and then someone from our admissions department will reach out to you and talk about you. Talk about where you are, where you've been, where you want to go. And if it all makes sense, they would schedule a virtual admissions tour with you. And during that time, they'll go into a little bit more in depth about some of the um, topics that we introduced here in the last 45 minutes. Those that are interested in going further, the admissions advisor will set up a financial aid meeting with you, and you will have a individualized meeting with that person. You will